How is everybody feeling today? Glad to say that I feel very much content and positive today. But that doesn't mean I'm the type of person who's always happy and positive all the time. I do have bad days sometimes where I would feel restless, overwhelmed, and demotivated. This usually happens when I feel like I over-depend myself around my devices and instead of enjoying the presence of myself in the real world. And plus the toxicity of the internet nowadays kind of like overwhelming and affected me, and that's when the first thing I said to myself that I wanted to stop. I wanted to limit myself on screen, and I wondered if the life we live in could be so much more than different and meaningful if we never took it for granted at the first place. And then I discovered that life is so much more than on screen. And that's when I first decided to limit myself on screen and enjoy this beautiful life. Does anyone ever experience the same feeling as me before? Or does anyone ever like trying to limit themselves or plan to limit themselves off the internet before? I know this is something is very hard to do, like when you kind of like have this sudden thought where you feel like you're missing out, you don't know what's going on around the world, you don't know what's going around you, and this is actually called the FOMO syndrome. So FOMO syndrome stands for the fear of missing out. So I know it's hard, but do not worry, my respective audience. My presence here today is to convince and guide you on how you can still rely on your devices while you could still enjoy your life to the fullest. Do you know that Malaysians spend an average of 9.17 hours per day online as of the third quarter of 2020? In contrast, they spend an average of 3.01 hours per day on social media. This figure shows how critical it is for Malaysians to be online. According to this website called The Frontiers of Psychiatry, it is a grave concern that Malaysia has developed youth that over-depend themselves on the internet. This is very much concerning as it could lead to a variety of consequences to our community and country. Here's the video clip that you might want to watch.
Addiction, a strong inclination to do, use, or indulge in something repeatedly. It's 2020. 94% of Americans own a cell phone. The average person spends more than 24 hours per week on their phones, with younger millennials and Generation Z spending 5 hours or more per day on their devices. And while addiction may be somewhat of a strong word to use for this habit, it's something that I think needs to be discussed. A simple question to ask yourself is, what happens to you when you lose your phone?
What do you think of the video? Okay, so you may be wondering, is overdependence and addiction is the same thing? Yes, it is, and I know a lot of youth out there who is going through this addiction and having trouble on how to control it. So, based on my own personal experience, I know how extremely hard it is to control this unhealthy habit, and it is very much physically and mentally exhausted. So there's a quote once said by Benson that sounds like, "We are all in this together." So after trying various types of method, I finally figured some ways that actually worked effectively for me, and those ways are to set a good example with your own device. So the next one is to create a screen-free time at home, and the last one is the app that can actually help to manage your screen time. So let's start by talking about the first point of the day. So firstly is to set a good example with your own device. You can try this when you went out with your friends or family. You can try to put away your devices and start making conversation with the parties. Moreover, This way, it could improve your communication skills as well as it shows respect. And you also can avoid repetition in your conversation. And additionally, according to Pew Research Center survey report that fully 70% of all adults think it is generally okay for them to play phone while walking down the street. But only 38% think it is generally okay for them to use their phones at restaurants, and just 5% think it is okay for them to use cell phone at a meeting. And due to this, people do not realize the ignorance behavior would eventually affect our quality of communication and creating an antisocial community. So let's move on to the second point of the day, which is to create screen-free time at home. So for example, you should try to normalize by socializing with your family members instead of isolating yourself in your bedroom while chatting with your friends online. You should take this opportunity to talk to your father or mother as a redemption of their busy day. For instance, maybe you could help your mother in the kitchen, and also you and your family could go on some physical activities during your free time, such as jogging, hiking, cycling, or maybe a dinner at a fancy restaurant. Try to put away your phone and enjoy that moment. Enjoy the presence of your family members. Talk about what you guys want to talk. Just, talk it out. So this way, it does not just decrease your screen time, but on the other hand, it also strengthens your family bonds. And do you know that the main concern of parents nowadays is mostly about their children's screen time? Okay, so now let's turn to the last point of the day, which is the point where I could say it is the most important and the point that I can say I use it occasionally. And does any guesses about the last main point that I'm about to talk about? Okay, so actually, it is the app that can help you to manage your screen time online. So recently, some tech companies, including Google and Apple, have said that they would introduce features to help parents and kids to monitor their screen time online. So it is a grave concern not just for the parents but also to the community, and on how to control this issue, on how to control this screen time. So does anyone have any idea how this app actually functions? So actually, this app is allowing us to go on a certain app on a certain time and limits the amount of time we spend on each app. So for example, for Apple user, it is called the guided access. Here's a tutorial on how to use the time limit feature. So first you would go to settings and go to the screen time, and then go to the app limits, and you just can select the apps that you want to add the time limits. So just like I did, I go to the social apps and then I just select, and then you would go to the time span that you want for each app. So for time span, I usually put like 15 minutes per app. So, and that's it. After it's off, I would eventually stop playing with it and put my phone away. And it's very much helpful, it's very much effective for me. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of my speech, and we have looked at 3 main points thoroughly, and these are some of the guidance or tips on how to handle or manage your screen time online. So So for those who is sometimes feeling overwhelmed by this technology, I know it is hard to stop. I know it is very much addictive, but you can get through this. So I would be very honored to encourage, to convince, or to guide people out there to be in screen-free position where they can find their time, they can find their inner self better than being online. So I just want to say it is okay to take a break sometimes. It is okay to feel disconnect. I humbly hope that my speech will help you go through whatever you are struggling with. And always remember, disconnect doesn't make you a coward. And do not forget to live your life to the fullest. And thank you so much for being here today and lending me your ears. Let me end today's speech by saying a quotation by Laila Akita that sounds like, try to pause each day and walk through the nature. That's all for today.